It was a slow Tuesday afternoon at Millie's Diner, the kind of small-town place where the vinyl booths squeaked and the coffee never stopped flowing. The sun peeked through the dusty blinds, casting golden stripes across the linoleum floor. Emily, a 26-year-old waitress with a kind smile and eyes that always looked a bit tired, wiped down the counter as she hummed to an old tune playing from the jukebox. Her shift had been uneventful, just a few regulars and some travelers passing through on their way to somewhere more exciting. Emily didn't mind. She liked the quiet. It gave her time to think about her student loans, her mom's medical bills, the rent due in 5 days. Still, she smiled. She always smiled. The bell over the door jingled, and Emily looked up instinctively, grabbing a menu. A man walked in, older, maybe in his late 70s. He wore a faded military jacket, the edges fraying, and a patch on the shoulder reading U.S. Army. His movements were slow but steady. He didn't carry the weight of age like it was a burden, but more like a story too long to tell. Emily smiled warmly. "Welcome in. Sit anywhere you'd like." He nodded politely and chose a booth near the window, carefully sliding into the seat with the quiet grace of someone used to paying. Emily approached, menu in hand. "Anything I can get started for you, sir?" He smiled back. "Just coffee for now. Black." "You got it." She returned with the coffee and poured it slowly. "Cream or sugar?" He chuckled. "Nah. If it's not bitter, it's not real coffee." Emily laughed, her eyes crinkling. "Fair enough." She left him to his thoughts, but kept an eye on him as she refilled mugs and brought out plates of pancakes and fries. The man didn't speak to anyone else. He stared out the window mostly, sipping slowly, like every drop meant something. After a while, he opened the menu and motioned for her. "I'll take the meatloaf special," he said softly. "And if it's not too much trouble, could I get it to go?" "Of course," she replied, noting the hesitation in his voice. "Coming right up." Back in the kitchen, Emily's co-worker Jake, a cook with tattoos and a heart of gold, asked, "That your new favorite customer?" Emily smirked. "Maybe. He reminds me of my grandpa." When she brought the meal out in a brown paper bag, the old man pulled out a worn leather wallet. He counted the bills with slow fingers, pausing to double-check as if every dollar had a purpose. Emily glanced at the register. The total was $11.73. He had 10. Her smile never faltered. "Don't worry about it," she said quickly. "Lunch is on us today." His hand froze. No, I couldn't." "It's all right. Just a thank you from us. For your service." His eyes lifted to hers, surprised. "You knew?" She nodded gently toward his jacket. "My brother's in the Navy. We noticed those things." For a long moment, he didn't speak. Then he swallowed hard and said, "That's very kind of you, young lady. You have no idea what this means to me." She smiled again, though her chest ached. "Just promise to come back sometime, okay?" He nodded slowly. "You got it." When he walked out, Emily turned away quickly to hide the lump in her throat. She wasn't sure why she felt so emotional about it. Maybe because the world so often looked away from men like him. Maybe because it was the only kind thing she could afford to do that day. Jake peeked from the kitchen. "You okay?" "Yeah," she said, wiping her eyes. "I'm fine." But what Emily didn't know, what she couldn't know, was that the man had left something behind. Something tucked into the napkin holder at the booth. And that what seemed like a small act of kindness was about to ripple through her life in a way she never imagined. The next morning, Emily arrived at the diner early. The air was crisp, the kind that hinted at autumn's arrival, and a light fog hugged the streets. She slipped on her apron and started her usual routine, filling salt shakers, brewing the first pot of coffee, and wiping down the already clean tables. There was comfort in the routine, even if her feet always hurt by noon. As she made her way to the booth by the window, the one the old man had sat at the day before, something caught her eye. A napkin tucked awkwardly between the holder and the wall. She reached for it, intending to throw it away, but paused. There was handwriting. Her brow furrowed as she unfolded the napkin. It read, "Thank you, Emily. You reminded me that kindness still exists in this world. What you did yesterday may have seemed small to you, but to me, it meant everything. Sincerely, Robert J. Hanley. Her heart clenched. Robert. She hadn't asked his name, hadn't thought it necessary. But now the words on the napkin felt like a gift, like something sacred. She stared at the note for a long time before folding it carefully and slipping it into her apron pocket. That same morning, around 9:15 a.m., a sleek black SUV pulled into the diner's small lot. Emily noticed it through the front window. Out stepped a man in a dark gray suit, accompanied by two others, one with a camera, the other carrying a leather briefcase. She blinked, confused. Business types didn't usually stop in for coffee at Millie's. The suited man entered first, glancing around before locking eyes with her. Emily Carter? Yes, she said cautiously, wiping her hands on a towel. I'm Stephen Marks. I'm the executive director of the Hanley Foundation. She blinked. The what? The Hanley Foundation, he repeated, stepping closer. Founded by the late Robert J. Hanley. You served him lunch here yesterday, I believe. Emily's mouth opened slightly. He passed away? Stephen nodded solemnly. He passed away peacefully last night. Heart failure, according to the hospital. He was 78. But before he passed, he told a nurse about his experience here. He told her about you. Emily felt like the floor tilted beneath her. I didn't do anything special. Stephen smiled gently. You treated him with kindness, with dignity. He told the nurse, and later in a voicemail to his attorney, that he wanted to do something in return. Something meaningful. That's why we're here. She stared at him, still trying to comprehend what he was saying. I don't understand. Stephen turned to the man with the briefcase, who opened it and handed over a sealed envelope. Stephen extended it to her. Robert requested that this be delivered to you. Immediately. Her hands trembled as she took the envelope and opened it. Inside was a letter, handwritten in the same shaky script as the napkin, and a cashier's check. The letter read, Emily, in my younger years, I made money. A lot of it. But in the last few decades, I realized that wealth doesn't mean much without soul, without kindness. You gave me that yesterday. A moment of soul, of humanity. It reminded me of what truly matters. This is not a payment for your kindness. That can't be bought. This is a seed. For you. For your dreams. For your future. With gratitude. Robert J. Hanley. Her eyes dropped to the check. It was written out to her name. For $50,000. Emily gasped. This can't be real. It is, Stephen said softly. Mr. Hanley was a generous man, but selective. He believed deeply in honoring good people. This is his final act of gratitude. Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she sat down in the nearest booth, the check shaking in her hand. For so long, she'd lived paycheck to paycheck. She'd gone without meals to make sure her mom had medicine. She had worked double shifts, skipped birthdays, and postponed her college dreams. And now, this stranger, this quiet old man she'd served one meal, had changed everything. Jake, who had just come out from the back carrying a tray of eggs, paused mid-step when he saw the scene. What's going on? Emily looked up, tears in her eyes and a dazed smile forming. You're not gonna believe this. News of the mysterious gift spread quickly. By the end of the day, every regular at the diner knew Emily's story. The local newspaper called. Then the radio. Even a small TV crew showed up the next afternoon. But through all the attention, Emily stayed grounded. She didn't flaunt the money or boast about what had happened. She still showed up for her shifts. Still filled ketchup bottles. Still served pancakes to grumpy truckers at 7 a.m. Her co-workers teased her good-naturedly, calling her the heiress of hash browns, but Emily would just laugh and roll her eyes. What she couldn't shake, though, was the feeling that Robert's gift came with a purpose. He'd called it a seed, a word that stuck with her. That weekend, she took the bus to the community college she had once hoped to attend. She walked the campus slowly, remembering the day she got her acceptance letter, and the moment she realized she couldn't afford to enroll. Her mother had been sick that year. Rent was late. Dreams had to wait. But maybe not anymore. Emily sat down with a guidance counselor, explained her situation, and left the meeting clutching a new class schedule in her hand. She would start next semester, part-time at first. Courses in social work and community health. She wanted to do something that mattered, something that gave others the same kind of hope Robert had given her. That night, she called her mom and told her the news. Her mother cried on the other end of the line. "I always knew you were meant for something bigger," she said through the tears. The next few weeks passed in a blur. Emily juggled her shifts at the diner with campus visits, registration, and paperwork. She set up a savings account, paid off lingering medical bills, and even bought her mom a new recliner to replace the sagging one in the living room. Every choice she made, she did so with Robert in mind. Then one chilly morning, Emily found herself standing in front of the Hanley Foundation's headquarters downtown. She had been invited by Stephen Marks for what he called a follow-up. She wasn't sure what to expect, maybe a photo for the annual report, or a short interview about the donation. She never expected what happened next. Stephen greeted her warmly and led her into a large conference room where several people were seated around a table. Most were older board members, she assumed, but their smiles were kind. "Emily," Stephen began, "we've been following your story closely. Not just because of Robert's final gift, but because of what you've done with it. Your humility, your choices, your vision." She blinked, unsure what to say. "We'd like to offer you something more," he continued. "A scholarship. Full tuition, books, everything you need, until you graduate." Emily's hand went to her mouth. "We also have a small community grant program, and we'd like to fund your idea, whatever that seed becomes. Whether it's a local health outreach, a food program, a shelter initiative, whatever you decide." Robert believed in investing in good people. "So do we." She was speechless. All she could do was nod, tears brimming in her eyes again. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "Say you'll keep going," Stephen said. "Say you'll keep planting seeds." As they stepped out into the parking lot, the chilly evening air hit them, but neither of them seemed to mind. Tom carried his leftover pie in a small to-go box, his movement slow but steady. The waitress, her name tag now visible, Samantha, walked beside him with a quiet sense of purpose. "You didn't have to do that," Tom said softly. "You don't even know me." Samantha shrugged. "Maybe not. But I've seen enough people look right through you. I just wanted you to feel seen." They walked for a few more paces in silence until they reached Tom's old truck. He fished his keys from his pocket, but his hands trembled slightly. Without a word, Samantha took the keys and opened the door for him. "Let me help," she said gently, not making a fuss of it. Tom eased into the driver's seat, clearly grateful. "You remind me of my daughter," he said after a pause, his voice distant, like it came from a place far away. "She passed a few winters ago. Cancer. You've got her same spark." Samantha's heart clenched. She placed a hand on his shoulder. "I'm so sorry, Tom. No one should have to go through that alone." He nodded, his eyes suddenly misty. "Been alone for a while now. Nights like this, they get quiet." Samantha hesitated, then smiled. "Maybe not tonight. There's a little open mic going on at the bookstore across the street. You feel like hearing some bad poetry and mediocre guitar." Tom chuckled, a genuine sound that seemed to catch even him off guard. "You'd want me there?" "I think they could use a little wisdom in the room," she replied. "Come on." And so they went. Tom locked up his truck and followed her across the street, a little straighter, a little lighter. They didn't know what the night would bring: laughter, awkward applause, warm drinks. But what mattered was that someone had cared enough to ask. The next morning, Tom's story had gone viral. A customer from the diner had recorded part of their interaction and posted it online, touched by the waitress's quiet act of kindness. In the video, you could hear Samantha saying, "Everyone deserves to feel like they matter," just before she handed the check to the manager. The internet responded with overwhelming support. Messages flooded the diner's inbox. "Who is she? We need more people like this in the world." News outlets picked up the story. Headlines read, "Waitress pays veterans bill. What happens next is beautiful." By midweek, Samantha was offered an honorary recognition from the local mayor's office. The diner was packed with customers who'd never heard of the place before but now stood in line just to meet her. Reporters called, talk shows emailed, and someone even started a GoFundMe in her name, with the goal of helping her finally go back to college and pursue her dream of becoming a nurse. Samantha stayed humble through it all. It was just dinner, she said in every interview. But maybe that's where it starts. Maybe the small things are the big things. Tom came back to the diner every morning after that. Not because he was lonely, but because he wasn't anymore. Sometimes, he'd sit and read the paper. Other times, he and Samantha would share coffee before her shift. Their bond wasn't dramatic or flashy. It was quiet and consistent. A reminder that kindness, when it's real, lingers longer than headlines. On the day of her mayoral awards ceremony, Samantha stood at the podium in a simple dress, her hair pulled back in a loose ponytail. Tom sat front row, wearing a pressed shirt and a look of unmistakable pride. "I didn't expect any of this," she began. "I just saw someone who reminded me that the world is full of stories we pass by every day. And I didn't want to pass this one up." She paused, eyes glistening. "But what I've learned is that kindness doesn't just echo, it builds. It builds bridges. It builds families. And sometimes, it builds second chances." The crowd rose to their feet in applause. Tom wiped away a tear, unnoticed. And in that moment, a simple act of kindness had become a story that echoed far beyond the walls of a small-town diner.